Semper Paratus, written by G.I. Joe Viben. As her F3 Iolotl went steadily down towards the ocean, as so Tilly considered that things had gone wrong in her life, like her fighter's engines doing far worse against the bird strike than expected, or the ejection seat not working, or the canopy refusing to pop off or a manual bailing out, or, really, joining the Republic of the Dorset Aerospace Force at all, and getting into the squad training exercise. Yes, quite a lot of things had gone wrong, spectacularly so. It appeared that Xian engineering was not all it was cracked up to be. Hopefully, that luck would turn. But as the famously clear water of the eastern Otlio drew closer and closer, Osatili didn't feel it would. Her F3 was a surprisingly good glider, but all gliders go downwards, ultimately. Overhead, 2 other F3s circled in order to keep eyes on as Osatili went down. With them present, at least Osatili could count on there being someone to watch as she drowned. She noted a shape on the horizon, plowing through the waves. It was some kind of cargo vessel, and currently it was her only hope of survival, short treading water, till Sar arrived. Unfortunately, it was currently going the exact opposite way. Hopefully, the crew would turn it around and come to pick her up. A brief radio conversation later, and things became more clear. The ship was automated and couldn't really be overridden, but it would immediately turn around the second she contacted water, responding to her beacon hail. That at least gave Osatili better chances, but it would mean that she would take a lot longer to get picked up, and, given her struggle to get the canopy off, meant that there was still no one around to actually help remove the damn thing and let her escape. 100 meters to go. Controls were frozen, but there was a little bit of authority remaining. With all her might, every tentacle putting on the controls, Osatili struggled to keep the nose up for a ditching. 50 meters. Off in the distance, a cargo barge began to turn, so maybe her commanders had managed to get the owner to manually override it. More things to attend her death, she supposed. 25 meters. The aircraft shook as one of the F-3s circled overhead, far closer than it should have. Osatili would have yelled at the pilot for that, but she did have bigger issues on her mind, carrying on the fight with the controls. 15. 10. 5. The F-3 hit away with a smash, leaving Osatili feeling like she'd just been punched in the second stomach. The plane still had some momentum, though, and so it skipped slightly, bouncing from wave to wave, until finally coming to a stop. Osatili took a deep breath before once again setting to work on the canopy. She unbuckled the straps keeping herself in the seat, and tried to manually release again and again and again. As she struggled, Osatili noted that the water was indeed climbing higher around her cockpit, or rather, she was going down, steadily at least, but still down, and still the canopy refused to budge. In desperation, Osatili began smashing at the canopy, with the tentacles balled. Still no progress, and she noted the wings were very close to being fully submerged by this point. She had half a mind to get on the radio and yell at her fellow pilots to strafe the canopy, in hopes their bullets could break it, but the radio itself had given out on impact. And, being honest, that would probably just kill her faster, which under the circumstances only made it a better option. There was a new rumbling sound from straight up. Osatili looked up to see a new craft, one she didn't recognize, rocketing through the air above, its engines blazing away at full power in a struggle against gravity. For a moment she thought it was going to hit the water, but the craft managed to win out, decelerating as it pulled up, until it was making a run straight at Osatili's sinking craft. Its red and yellow painted transport helicopter-sized frame smashed past the circling F-3s, who pulled away in shock. If Osatili remembered her recognition charts correct, this was a human craft, the US-22 dropship. Osatili hadn't expected them to show up, especially not before her own people's rescue planes. There were only a few United Nations vessels in system, present for negotiation purposes, while some of their personnel worked alongside the Republics, giving technical advice and so on. The Republic was pre-FTL, you see, despite having a few cities endorse its moons. The United Nations had been the only alien civilization to actually make contact so far, and they had been almost glacial about it, step by step, always careful to not scare the Republic, which is pretty good of them, all things considered. Them throwing a search and rescue craft at her, insignificant as a toady, made her feel even better about their intentions, even if she was about to drown. Maybe in the next life she'd be able to watch from the afterlife at them doing more good things. Now Sir Tilly noticed, as she pondered this, that the water continued to rise. It was now at the very base of the canopy, and the steady clambering up the glass, inexorably marching up and up. Through some tiny holes, meanwhile, more water began to trickle, then pour into the cockpit. As Sir Tilly knew that she was done for now. Either she could plug the leak to sink all the way to the ocean floor and run out of air there, or let it continue to fill and drown here. Both were horrible options. As the water got to what could be called her ankles, and the canopy was almost entirely submerged, the human craft glided through the skies above. One of its side doors was open, and 3 shapes dropped from it, creating decent-sized splashes as they hit the water in close proximity. Through the crystal-clear water, Sir Tilly could see the shapes swimming towards her, their outline revealing them to be humans, though the large flippers attached to their legs did throw her off a little. All 3 powered across the waves and were upon her ship in a matter of seconds. One placed themselves at eye level with Sir Tilly, making a series of hand gestures Sir Tilly didn't recognize, but could guess that by the context meant here to help. Sir Tilly was about to make some sort of gesture back, but then realized the water was now around her arms. Worse, the influx of water was accelerating. Unless these people moved fast, she was done for. Training took over. Sir Tilly remembered the procedure now. Take as many deep breaths as you can before you're fully submerged. As she filled all 4 of her lungs with the contents of her rapidly shrinking air pocket, Sir Tilly used a free tentacle to gesture in the direction of the exterior emergency release. Though she could just see the outer 2 figures were already over there, then water was upon her, and she had no choice but to wait. There were several seconds of nothing, then a bang that shook the sinking plane. Sir Tilly could see the canopy shatter under the pressure of the inlaid micro-explosives, the figure having backed off before they could get injured. Sir Tilly began to swim upwards, only for the figure to grab her around her midsection, wrapping their arms around Sir Tilly's tentacles. Then the figure propelled both of them straight up, reaching the surface in no time. A moment later, the other swimmers popped up. The human dropship came around once more, this time even lower. A winch lowered from the small side door, with a human and a rescue harness dangling from it. The dropship maneuvered precisely to put said human down right next to Sir Tilly, at which point they began to the dropship, precisely maneuvering it to put them down right next to Sir Tilly and her helper. The human then quickly applied the harness, looping cables around some of Sir Tilly's tentacles to get a firm hold. It was clear they weren't used to working with the Zayan body, given how gently and cautiously they completed the task, as opposed to the rough and quick of a seasoned worker, but they did it without hesitation. The humans made a gesture up at the craft, sticking the largest digit of their left hand up as they shouted something into their radio. Sir Tilly guessed that the crew of the dropship couldn't really see the gesture, and the radio was absolutely doing the majority of the work, but it was probably near religious tradition at this point. Then they were lifted up, hoisted out of the seas. It only took a short time to climb that distance, and yet Sir Tilly spent every half second in fear that the line would break, the plane would experience its own fault, or the winch would stop. And yet none of these came to pass, with Sir Tilly being bundled into the dropship safely, whilst another human untangled her from the straps. A pair of medics appeared, assessing any injuries, whilst the rest of the team were rapidly retrieved. Someone told her that the beacon had been placed, so the wreck of her jet could be located and recovered. Then, in so little time, she could feel the dropship begin to zoom off, this time heading straight for land. The medics checked her over, but she had nothing worse than some bruises from the impact. As they flew, one of her rescuers apologized profusely for their lateness arriving, Apparently, they'd been running a training exercise just a few hundred clicks away, and had immediately beelined over the second they had been informed of the situation, just casually flying a search and rescue craft faster than a fighter could ever dream of going, in order to pick up a random pilot in the nick of time. As Telly reckoned, she liked these humans. End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.